Last year we got a teaser for by far my most anticipated game of 2025, but we didn't get any gameplay. Luckily though, a few days ago at the PlayStation State of Play, we got a full gameplay trailer and details. And it looks amazing, so I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Today we are going to break down and fully analyze the trailer for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Right away, some of the mechanics seem different, but similar to All-Stars Racing's Transformed. And, alright, I get it. We're going to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. Of course we're going to. But I'll probably do a video on Sonic on the second channel in like a week or so. But like, this State of Play was made for me. Sonic, go-karts, and FNAF? My cup runneth over. Slices, put on your aprons, and let's bake ourselves a theory. I think the best way to go about this video is just go over the trailer in depth, frame by frame, shot by shot, and point out everything that seems important that you may have missed. But the like lore relevant points. I'm not going to go into every shot and be like, there's a box, and another box, and this box looks like a cake. We're going over the stuff that seems lore relevant. So without any further ado, let's break down this trailer. Right away in the first shot, we get this blue van, which seems to be the same van from the Mimic update for Help Wanted 2. At least they're both blue and have a similar build, and the update was made to tease the upcoming game, so they're probably the same van. Though it is important to note the differences. The one in the trailer does not have a white stripe and has the Fazbear Entertainment logo, and the one in Help Wanted 2 does have a white stripe but doesn't have the Fazbear Entertainment logo. Regardless, the ending of the Help Wanted 2 update sees the van packing up the MXCS console and driving away. And in this trailer, we see the van pulling up to the facility. Considering the other thing in the room that it's driving away from is the facility, to me, this is telling us that one of the things we'll be bringing back from this factory is the MXES console. And if it's in this factory, it was likely made by Edwin. This is something many people have speculated, but we still don't know what the Mex's system actually does. Hopefully we'll find out in this game. Most of the narration is just flavor and describing that we're going to reclaim the Mimic for Fazbear, but the beginning of it has this line.
One of our contractors, Edwin Murray, has gone missing.
And I cannot tell you how monumental it is that we get a first name and a last name of a character in this series. Like, yes, is the name Edwin Murray really important because it establishes a connection to the books? Of course, but frankly, that's not even the hypest thing here. Think about it. When is the last time that we have directly from the games gotten a first and last name of a character? We haven't. Literally, we have not gotten a full name, frankly, any name, for Henry Emily, Charlotte Emily. We have not gotten a full name for William Afton, Michael Afton, Vanessa, or Gregory. That's all of our characters. The closest we've gotten is in sister location, we get Mr. Afton, and at the end of it, we get It's Me, Michael, so we can piece together Michael Afton, and in the credits for FNAF 6, we get the name William Afton. That is the most we've ever gotten in this entire series. So I think it's important to point out the fact that this trailer is willing to just straight up be Edwin Murray. That is so refreshing, because again, I love the cryptic nature of the lore of this game. It's why I have a job, but it is nice to just get some unambiguous information for once. But yeah, that in mind, the name Edwin Murray doubles down what I've been saying for the past couple months, that at this point, I think it is safe to assume that the Tales from the Pizzaplex stories are basically one-to-one with the games. Now, that still could be wrong, right? This could be a Silver-Eye situation, where we have the names William Afton, Henry Emily, we have locations and animatronics and characters and concepts that do match, but the stories are different. That's totally possible with these new books, but until that's proven to be the case, I think it's a safe assumption to assume that these books are one-to-one, for the most part anyway, minor details aside. Anyway, let's go back to the trailer. We get our first shot inside of the factory, and there's a lot of characters in suits that we want to talk about here. I've talked about this before, mind the tea, I'm sick again if you couldn't tell, but hey, I wasn't sick for like 3 weeks straight. It was crazy, it was so nice. I've talked about this before on the channel, but this era of FNAF, if the 1979 date in the first teaser is to be believed, coincides with the Fall Fest, a mysterious era that we don't know much about from Fazbear's history. My belief is that the Fall Fest was this annual fair that they trialed characters at, and the most popular ones became mainstays at Freddy's locations. That's where we originally got Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy. They started as characters at Fall Fest, became very popular, and were made mainstays. Frankly, I could see the mediocre melodies being the runner-ups that were popular but not quite as popular. So that being said, Fall Fest, I believe, and I think this is showing us, had a lot of characters. Not all of them made it. Frankly, most of them didn't. And I think in this factory, and that gets doubled down by the description we'll get into later, we're going to see all of the characters that they've trialed. It's important to mention that many of these characters have been seen in the books already, like in stories The Mimic and the epilogues. So I will be pointing out every character I can see in this trailer. And if that character has something pretty close in the book, books, I'll make sure to mention it, or at least display a book when talking about it. In this starting shot, we have a couple characters immediately. The lighting does make it tough to see colors though. I'm going to assume this is a yellow dog and some kind of blue dog, both of which are mentioned in the books. The yellow dog is actually something David wore and walked around on all fours, which makes sense with this suit. Then there's this bee character, which wasn't in any of the books, but was on one of the posters at PAX West. Moving further in, there's these cutouts for a pink sheep and a sleeping dog. The pink sheep might not be an important character, but instead a steel wool reference, as they like to do in the games. There's also this goose character that shows up a lot throughout the trailer. And on the shelf, there's a head. This head is a bit hard to see, but luckily we see it again later, so we'll talk about it then. There's then a cutout of this balloon dog, and in the background there's a mascot of what seems to be another dog, or at least the face reminds me of Goofy, so it's giving dog, but it is hard to make out what it is. And then we get this monstrosity. This cutout of a jester is absolutely terrifying to me, but it's important. Several times in these stories, they mention a pink and yellow-green jester. There's two of them in the Mimic, and in the epilogues, there's actually a springlock suit of this character. That's an important suit because it's used to kill the Mimic in the epilogues. So if this is our jester, that implies we might actually finally get to see an in-game model of a springlock suit. Not like years after the fact, crumpled and barely usable or half-rotted, but an in-use, new springlock suit, which would be massive. Our next scene is of this office. We turn on a generator to access the door, and inside there's a lot of details to go over. On the left side, there's a bulletin board with some children's drawings on it. In the books, Edwin Murray had a son named David, and I'm assuming he's the one that drew these, since the picture in the middle shows what looks like an adult and a child holding hands, likely Edwin and David. Off to the left, we see this mushroom character. He shows up a lot, and for good reason. I think this dude's awesome. I want a figure of him now. In fact, there's a figurine of the Mushroom Man on the desk. We also see this digital clock reading 12 o'clock, which could indicate a traditional FNAF gameplay section here, or maybe just the clocks in the facility show the current time throughout the game. There's this large center console that has the same triangle symbol that the puzzle in Help Wanted 2 had, likely being the logo of this whole facility, MCM. Off to the right side, there looks to be a helper console, but we'll go more over the helper console when we get its dedicated shot in the trailer. And believe me, I tried my best, but I cannot make out what's on this text. I zoomed in, I upped it to 4K, I tried contrasting it, I tried upping the exposure. I can't figure it out. If you can, let me know. Next, we get this panning shot of the different costumes, in which we get another shot of the blonde dog from the epilogues, this elephant, which isn't from the books, but is a non-deteriorated version of this costume from the basement in ruin, the one that's in the room the Mimic is held in. And then there's this creature. I guess this is the blue dog from earlier, but I'm going to be so honest. When I look at this thing, I can't tell if it's a dog or a duck. Like, the snout and eyes are giving dog, but the snout is kind of shaped like a duck bill, and the coloration reminds me of a cartoon duck. Like, maybe I'm just crazy, but I wouldn't doubt if this thing is like Danny the Duck Dog, or maybe like a platypus. I don't know. It's weird. I do kind of like it though. The next shot is of Tiger Rock, but instead of the plushie we saw in Help Wanted 2, this is definitely the mascot suit. Look at how it's standing up. Honestly, I wouldn't doubt if this is the beginning of our first encounter with the Mimic. We walk into a dark room, then there's a spotlight on the Tiger Rock suit. The Tiger Rock chases us until eventually we see the Mimic inside. And looking at this in full form, I kind of suspect that the suit the Mimic was making in the basement is supposed to be the closest thing it can make to the Tiger Rock suit. At least that's the vibe I get. Our next shot is in this back room / interior wall sort of space, but we get a clean shot of the Mimic using Jackie to climb over the facility. Jackie being the center of the teaser was interesting, as it left a lot of us wondering if she's the main antagonist or really important to the lore. But looking at how Jackie is used by the Mimic in this trailer, I have a suspicion that Jackie is less the major antagonist and more so a suit the Mimic likes to use because it's incredibly agile, large, and able to climb on things. So it might just be the most mobile suit in the facility. There's also this cute mouse on a box, which is a tool we get later on. If I had to guess, it's like a distraction thing that you wind up and throw. Our next shot is of this hallway with posters and windows. I remember that the people who played the PAX demo mentioned a hallway similar to this, so I wouldn't doubt if this is that hallway. We can make out most of these posters. The last three of them are actually the Fredbear's posters from Security Breach. These three to be exact. The first one is a bit hard to make out, and we haven't seen it before, but it seems to be advertising some sort of salon with this dog character. And then of course we get the Mimic in that elephant costume at the end of the hallway. And holy hell is it freaky. This is menacing in a way that FNAF really hasn't been for me in a while. This gives that FNAF 1 eeriness that I've been craving. Our next shot is again of the Mimic showing us how useful Jackie is, using her to crawl through the vents to look for us. And what a terrifying shot of Jackie. Like, just look at this face. Next we get a good close-up shot of the Mushroom Man, but with the Mimic in it. The important important thing to note here is the new Mimic face. Look at these eyes. They're clearly different from the Mimic in Ruin, which is a good thing. The books mention that the Mimic can repair itself, and it's been changed several times, and we can see that here. Frankly, these eyes give me the vibes of a vintage light bulb with a coil inside, and I think that's what we're seeing, which lines up with the timeline of this game. We then get two different angles of this puzzle room, in an aerial view and up close and personal one. If I had to guess, this is one of those classic rotate the pipe kind of puzzles where we have to get an electrical current from one end to the other and line up the wires by rotating these shapes. But frankly, this isn't important. That's cool, don't care. Here's the important thing. Take a look at that elephant. Specifically, what's behind it? That is a very small arm. So one of two possibilities are here. Either this is a very small mascot suit for some reason tucked away behind a larger mascot suit, or for the first time in Five Nights at Freddy's history, that is an on-screen dead body. We have never had gore outside of some eyeballs from FNAF 1 in a Five Nights at Freddy's game. The closest thing we've had are silhouettes in Sister Location and 8-bit minigames. And look, I'm not one of those people who insists that we need graphic content in FNAF to keep it interesting, blood and guts and misery. No, but it is undeniably refreshing to get some more mature themes in these games. Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 showed just that you can up the ante a little bit, not lose your core audience, and show everybody that you're willing to play ball. And I hope that this body is a sign that FNAF is going to do the same. The next shot is this office with this fun little guy. Judging by his postman adjacent outfit and the little mail lever on his hat, I'm assuming this is an automatic letter sorter. In fact, the people who went to PAX West who played the demo mentioned seeing a room like this, where it's an office with this robot in the center of it, and if it is the same room, you come in here to turn on a generator, and as you're doing it, Jackie breaks in, brutalizes the guy, and chases you. I hope that's not true, because I wish nothing but the best for this silly little guy. He does kind of remind me of an early staff bot, though. Don't know if that's important or not. As far as the rest of this shot, there's nothing that's important that you can make out. All the documents appear blank on the trailer. In the next shot, we're opening some kind of gate. Once again, in the PAX demo, players mentioned having to collect a crank to open this gate. Where they got the crank is interesting though, and lining it up with the teaser, this is definitely the same one. This crank is taken off of Jackie's box and used to access the grate, but doing that activates Jackie and starts a chase sequence. We then get peak walking animation with this mushroom guy. Again, I love this man, and I would do anything for him. We then get another shot of Tiger Rock, and there's not much to talk about here, but it is cool. But then we get this shot of the helper console. Now, on one side of the screen, we actually get a better look at that B character, plus what seems to be a scene of pirate animals, notably a crab and I believe a shark. It's interesting that it's a whole pirate scene without Foxy. I wonder if Foxy originated in this character set, but the big thing here to talk about is Helper, an early version of Helpy in this terminal, which begs the question, how long was Helpy in the franchise? Because at this point, Helpy seems to predate Freddy, which is crazy. Not to mention the early Faz wrench being used to access the terminal, with what looks like 3 symbols to measure something on it, and this terminal seems to activate a welcome show. Who knows what that could be? We then get this animatronic in Dolly, a human character who seems to be some sort of doctor slash dentist slash nurse. I say that judging based on what she's wearing, but she is freaky, and I think she might be able to shoot something out of her hands, judging by the weird backpack she's wearing that has tubing connecting to her forearms. Now, to be fair, this could be something that shoots out, but this could also just be hydraulic power. Like, this might just be how the animatronic moves, since this is supposed to be older technology. But we know how technology and timelines never really lines up in FNAF. This is also the shot where we get a better look at that head from the beginning. To me, this looks like it might be an early concept of the cupcake, but frankly, it's too hard to tell. It's just kind of something right now. We then get this massive storage room shot with a lot of interesting stuff. During it, we're using that mouse from earlier, and again, I think it's just a distraction. On the very far right, we have a pig character who probably isn't VIP, but he might be an early VIP, and then again, we get that B character. And then there's something that, look, I might be looking too far into this, but I swear, does this kind of look like a Fredbear face? Like, imagine if Fredbear and them were one of those old style of animatronics with the fur lining and the plastic face. Doesn't this look like that face, or am I crazy? Or maybe that's early Freddy? We then see the security door, which might be the office from earlier. After all, the generator is in the same location, and that office being a security office does make a lot of sense. We get plenty more geese characters, and then this cutout of a crocodile. He was on one of the PAX posters that we got pictures of, but I have a feeling it might be an early version of Monty. I mean, they're both crocodiles, it's not a huge stretch. The next shot is then of Jackie, breaking the ceiling we're under, and we get a good shot of her backside, showing that she does in fact rip herself out of the box, as people mentioned in the demo at PAX. And finally, the trailer ends on this reveal of a massive old-timey Music Man. Some people have said Disco Music Man, but to me, looking at it, this looks like a carnival barker, which if all of this is circus themed, would make sense for Music Man to be this massive carnival barker. I mean, he's got the top hat, the big mustache, what looks like a vest, but notably, look at his mouth. His mouth is a music box. Those like rotating things with the bumps that hit keys. His teeth are the keys. This is such a cool detail. The trailer then ends with some more film grain and giving us the date June 13th, 2025, Friday the 13th. Also, there's like a one-frame shot of the Tiger Rock plushie, not sure why.
Hey, it's me, your Gamersupps. Your powder's low, idiot. You know you need more. Use code RYTOAST for 10% off. And it gives the guy money, which is more important. Oh, hold on. This person needs to eat my face.
And that's the trailer, but that's not all that we got, because on the PlayStation Store, there's now a wishlist page for Secret of the Mimic, and in it is a full description of the game. So I'm just going to replay the trailer while I read it to you verbatim. Enter the abandoned workshop of Murray's Costume Manor, and unravel the mystery left behind by the reclusive inventor, Edwin Murray. In Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic, you'll step into a world where every dark corner holds a secret, and every flicker of light hints at an ever-present threat. The Mimic, a prototype endoskeleton, can adapt to any costume and become any character, including what you fear most. Armed with only your wits, a few gadgets, and a heavily redacted corporate briefing, you'll attempt to retrieve Fazbear's prized prototype technology while grappling with cryptic clues and a relentless shadow determined to dispatch all unwanted company. Prepare for heart-pounding thrills as you explore the labyrinth of the deserted Costume Manor, discovering remnants of Edwin's unfinished work and eluding the monster he's created. Experience Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic and survive the mystery and madness. Secret of the Mimic will be available for the PlayStation 5 on June 13th, 2025. And I do want to be clear here, it only mentions the PS5, but let's be real. Every time that a FNAF game has been announced via a Sony platform like the PlayStation Store or the State of Play, they only mention the PlayStation. Every time that's happened, it's released at the same exact time on PC on Steam. So I think it is going to be on PC as well. However, there is a chance it won't be on PS4, and if so, that's rough for the PS4 only players out there. I wish you the best. And that was the trailer. So let's go over some of the surface level lore and speculation that we can, and leave some of the crazy stuff for next time. Right away, we get a company name in Murray's Costume Manor, and I feel like that's pretty much a lock for what MCM stands for from Help Wanted 2, the letters we see on the logo that's all over that facility. And if the point of this place is that Murray was contracted by Fazbear to make them costumes, Murray's Costume Manor makes a lot of sense, which means finally we will be getting the perfect environment for the Mimic to shine in. The Mimic as a character is terrifying because it can be in any costume, so putting us in a massive factory filled with empty costumes means you're never really safe, and that's why it works so well. As far as what will be going on during the game, I think it's safe to say that we are Team C at least. For those of you who don't know what that means, the second half of the story, The Mimic, follows a team of engineers that Fazbear sent to collect whatever Edwin was working on because he went MIA. Basically the same thing that we hear in this trailer. But that team discovers that they're not the first ones, that there was in fact a team that was sent before them, who found half of an endoskeleton and gave it legs and repaired it. But once they did, it began killing them. It is the Mimic. And in finding that out, they also die. So if we're by ourselves, we're neither of those groups, and the Mimic's already walking around, so we definitely can't be the first one. So I think, after all of this, Fazbear started sending single engineers, and that's who we're going to be. But there is a massive question here. If we're going through Edwin's factory and trying to retrieve any technology we can find, why was the Help Wanted 2 teaser showing us the mansion in front? Unless they're literally connected, but in the story, it was a separate mansion next to the factory. So either they're one large building, or this game is going over multiple locations. One where Edwin planned to live before his wife died, and the factory he lived in while working. And finally, I have a guess for what the Secret of the Mimic actually is, because I think it's a literal title. I don't think we're here to find out what made the Mimic go evil, or what's going to happen in this game is what the Secret of the Mimic is, that it was killing Fazbear employees. I think it's much more simple than that. Fazbear sent us here to get the technology Edwin was working on, and while the prototype endoskeleton is impressive, the main thing they they want is that programming. The program that can see something and learn it. You'll never have to program an animatronic again. Put that in everything you make, and they can just watch you dance and dance for you. That's what Fazbear wants. Fazbear wants to know how the mimic works. Fazbear wants to know what makes the mimic tick. Fazbear wants to know what is the secret of the mimic. I think that's what the title is telling us. The title is what we're looking for. What is the programming? The Mimic 1 program is the secret of the mimic, and that's what we're there to collect. But that's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours in the comments below about this trailer. Regardless, it looks amazing, and I can't wait to play it. You know we'll be live playing it. After all, I do live stream 4 days a week at 9 p.m. EST on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on the second channel Right Tuesday and on Twitch at RightToastYT. But in the meantime, if you want a theory that goes over the most recent FNAF game, I actually just made a theory on Help Wanted 2 last week, which you can find right here. If you want your fan art featured on the channel, make sure to share with #ToastArt. A huge thank you to the best channel members, the Dough Risers, and until next time, as always, stay toasty, slices.